This mosaic of wetlands in northeast India is the last stand for this rather odd-looking bird. This prehistoric bird with a bulbous projection is more endangered than the tiger. Some consider it the ugliest bird on planet Earth. And it is a great scavenger. In fact, it is part of nature's cleaning crew. Yet, it enjoys a rather unsavory reputation of being dirty and pungent. It's been persecuted and poisoned, the trees on which it once nested chopped down. This was a bird badly in need of an image makeover. My name is Purnima Burman, and this is my story. And how I mobilized an army of women to fall in love with the greater adjutant stork, or the Hargilla, as we call it so fondly in Assam. Will my Hargilla Army be successful in saving the once reviled bird from extinction? The greater adjutant stork was once found widely across South Asia. Habitat loss, conversion of wetlands, and hunting led to a mass wipeout. Today it is restricted to only 2 sites in the world, in Assam and Bihar in India, and Praktol in Cambodia. Nearly 80% of the population is found in the state of Assam, making their conservation here critical for their long-term survival. I was born in a village surrounded by wetlands. With my father being in the army, I lived a lonely childhood. I think that's what connected me to nature. I first saw this majestic bird as a child. My grandmother would share with me the local names of so many birds. It was during my master's in zoology that I had decided I must give back to nature. And that's how I arrived here in Kamrup district, just 15 kilometers from the city of Guwahati, where I live. Most of the people are working on flagship animals, like the rhino, tiger, and elephant, which are found in my hometown. So I decided to work on a lesser-known bird species and finally enrolled myself to do a PhD to study the stork. The Deep-Orbeil wetland is an important refuge for the storks, a former channel of the river Brahmaputra. These birds rely on the large body of water for food. The village of Doordarshan, adjoining the wetland where I started my research, has long trees for nesting, providing an ideal environment for the birds. In this village where birds and humans coexist, the breeding season is about to start. The storks have arrived, and the first task is spring cleaning the nests. Storks prefer to nest in compact colonies on large, widely branched trees with thin foliage cover, close to food sources. The birds start collecting nesting materials from neighboring trees and foliage. Bit by bit, new material is added. The biggest nests are 70 feet off the ground and about 6 feet wide. This will be home in the coming winter months, so no effort must be spared. to make it warm and cozy. Spring cleaning over, the house is now in order. The male awaits the arrival of the female. His patience is rewarded. After a long wait, the female has arrived. They greet each other with a joyful welcome clatter. Not much time is wasted in courtship, and pairs are formed quickly. Storks have a reputation of being faithful partners, but their relationship is based on joint ownership of the nest, which they return to with or without their partner. Within a week, there will be up to 4 eggs in one clutch. The mother gingerly sits on the eggs, making sure they don't crack under her weight. Both the father and mother will take turns to incubate the eggs, to give the other parent time off for feeding. Building a family is hard work, and they must get adequate rest before the young ones hatch. This year, the trees are packed with nests. Every inch of stork real estate is occupied. With babies on the way, the house must be kept in order. The birds will keep the nest clean and will discard any damaged or unfertilized eggs. This could also be a strategy to ensure no predator is attracted to the nest. A stork's egg is almost double the size of a hen's. To better observe my beloved birds, I constructed a 70-foot bamboo tower. I had to convince the owner to allow me to construct such a huge tower on top of her house. It's not easy climbing up, but at least it gets me at eye level with the storks. They are my soul and my life. I can spend hours looking at them. I like to observe their behavior, as very little is known about this rare bird. After almost a month, I am delighted to see newborn chicks in the nest. The hard work of the parents has paid off. Right now, the chicks weigh around 10 grams. That's less than the weight of 2 teaspoons of sugar, but they will gain weight every day. This year's food supply will determine how many chicks make it to adulthood. It's a busy time for the beleaguered parents, feeding the hungry mouths with frequent meals. The parents regurgitate the food, and since there is no time for individual feeding, each chick grabs whatever they can. The chick that hatched first is usually stronger and typically gets more food. A family of 4 consume around 3 kilos of food every day, keeping the parents on their feet. While one parent is in charge of meal times, the other keeps a close watch. To prevent the hatchlings from choking, any large pieces of bone or meat are meticulously removed. Whatever they are fed doesn't seem like enough. I use this time to collect data for my research. I am studying their behavior, as so little is scientifically known about these birds. Since I began my work in Dodara, the number of nests has been increasing every year. But as a biologist, I know this is not enough. Across Assam, only a few nesting colonies are left. Stork numbers may have increased recently, but there are still less than 600 storks in India, a number which is far fewer than that of the iconic Royal Bengal tiger. Getting the people of Dodara to change their attitude toward the bird wasn't easy. I visited this village for my research, and I saw a man had cut a tree which was being used by the storks to nest, and the entire breeding colony was dead, just like that. While nests in Dodara were abundant, so was the hatred toward the birds. The incident left a lasting impression, and I wondered, how can I get people who consider this bird to be a dirty, foul nuisance to change their attitude? The people of Dodara would have to be a major part of the conservation efforts for the bird. And that's how the idea of the Hargilla Army was born. As a woman, I wanted the local women to become the protectors of this bird. I began by combining my passion for the birds with their livelihood. The women leaders of the Hargilla Army work on a traditional loom that is common in villages across Assam. While the loom is common, what the women have learned to weave are stork motifs on the gamcha, or a traditional Assamese scarf. Noni Rajbanshi learnt these at the handicraft workshops I had helped organize, with assistance from the state government. These traditional hand-woven scarves generate additional income for the women, but also help create pride in the bird species found in their village.
I got a chance to develop my skills and earn money from it. My husband has newfound respect for me now. The best part is we get to help the Hargilla.
Even as I work with the women, I cannot neglect the birds. At the nesting site, the chicks are getting bigger. That means the nest is getting crowded. Strong winds sometimes blow the chicks out of the nest, leading to high mortality rates. With the help of a non-profit organization, Aranyak, and my Hargilla Army members, we set up safety nets underneath each nesting colony. My research has shown almost 50% of the chicks will die of starvation if they fall from the nest. It's a simple yet life-saving device for the birds. The trees belong to households within the village. I have slowly been motivating the tree owners to guard the nests and treat these birds as their own children. After many years of persistence, a change in attitude has finally developed. But I wonder if even our best efforts will help protect the storks against extreme weather conditions. An overnight rainstorm has brought bad news for the nesting colony. This tree fell in last night's storm, putting 3 nests it was supporting in danger. Urgent rescue efforts are needed if the birds are to be saved. With the help of the Hargilla Army members, we send the birds to Guwahati Zoo. Here they will be fed and looked after until they are old enough to survive on their own. Back in the village, given the shortage of nesting trees, I am keen to experiment with another idea. What if we could construct an artificial platform for the birds to nest on? But will the storks use this artificial platform as a nesting substitute? Meanwhile, the nesting colony in the trees is making good progress. The chicks have gained weight, though they are not yet ready to fly from the nest. Until then, parents have to bring a lot more food for them to eat. Though it is winter, with the sun overhead, it can get really hot in the nest. So the attentive parents must have a strategy for keeping them hydrated. If they don't, the chicks can die of dehydration. It's a laborious task carrying water to the nest in their beaks. Water at last. With the chicks too young to fly out, the parents must bring water several times a day. If they are lucky, a water spray from Mama Bird's beak works best. But outside of the village of Doordarshan, the adjutant stork is facing a tough battle for survival. Guwahati is the biggest and fastest growing city in northeast India. With over 1 million people that now call it home, there is a growing problem with waste disposal. All the waste coming out of Guwahati City is dumped on the feeding grounds of the bird. There are mountains of garbage everywhere. The dumping site, which could have been an ideal source of food for this scavenging bird, has now become a major threat for it. Here, waste pickers and birds compete for food. There's food wrapped in plastic, and it could be laced with toxins that could harm humans and birds. Given that the birds are scavengers, there is no way of knowing what the adjutant storks are ingesting from this toxic mountain. My fears are not unfounded. News comes in that 27 dead birds have been found at the garbage dump. 3 birds are in critical condition. No one knows why so many of the birds have died. This is a huge setback and leaves me devastated. Any more deaths could push the birds further into extinction. The cause of death must be isolated immediately. Everybody from the forest department to the police steps in to help. The mass deaths could undo years of hard work put in by so many of us. Only a detailed post-mortem examination will reveal the cause of death. But there is no time to mourn the loss of the birds. I must hide my feelings and soldier on. Today, I am busy organizing an awareness workshop with children in a nearby school. My workshop will include a life-sized statue of the stork, some games on the web of life, and a dash of enthusiasm. I hope to inspire the next generation to always welcome the birds. Meanwhile, the post-mortem reports have arrived. They confirm what I had feared all along. The deaths were due to pesticides that could have possibly been ingested from the garbage at the dump. Birds spend lots of time feeding in garbage dumps, so we need to have a proper solution to that. We need to have segregation of garbage before dumping in the fields, and we all have to work toward it. In the midst of gloom, there is some good news to cheer us up. And it's just the excitement we need to spur us out of this dark hour. Hargilla Army tell us that the birds have started using the artificial towers we had set up. Closer examination reveals there are in fact newborns on the way. Our experiment of providing artificial towers as nesting spaces has been successful. And the best part? It can be replicated in other parts of the world as well. And what better way to celebrate the arrival of the chicks than to be with the people who made this happy moment possible? The women are celebrating as if one of their own is about to be born. Who would have thought that the same set of people who once detested this bird are now celebrating it? This is the moment I will cherish. It gives me the fuel to carry on in spite of the obstacles along the way. The government, too, has recognized the work of the Hargilla Army.
Purnima is doing great work for the birds. We should make an EDC or an eco-development committee so that the people there are supported financially and it is an incentive for them to conserve the bird.
5 months have passed by, and the chicks hand-reared at the zoo have grown large enough and are now ready to be released into the wild. A scientific tracking tag is put on each bird so it will be easy to monitor them after release. In the past, my team has over the years rescued and released over 70 birds since we began our work. It may be a small number on its own, but for an endangered species, it's a big step. The hard work of the parents has paid off. The young chicks flap their wings in anticipation of their arboreal journey. And once they're strong enough, these treetops will serve the chicks well for their first day at flying school. My journey here has had many ups and downs, but I continue with the hope that the Hargilla Army becomes a symbol, not just for community conservation, but also for the empowerment of women. Soon, the next generation of storks will take to the skies, only to return again to the same nesting trees, thus completing the cycle of life. The Hargilla Army will be there to protect them.